Okay. Okay, so a few people asked that we do the class for their loved ones. So I just want to mention that we're going to do the class Eloi Nishmas Yeshaya Shalom ben Aaron Zev, Hani's grandfather. And also for a four shlema of 3 people that we want to dedicate the class to. Yaakov ben Malka, Meir Tzvi ben Chana, and Yaakov Tzvi ben Sarah. I want to share four shlema, Shmei L'chaim, and we share good news. Okay, so this class, compared to last week I feel like it was very, very technical. We took apart a Rashi, but this week it's not technical at all. I don't choose the Sichos. I don't choose, but each Sicha is like it's a whole experience. Like some are, it's not like when you go to school, you have a teacher, and teachers in a certain way. When we learn the Rebbe's teachings, we have the whole spectrum. It caters to every type of brain. Some teachings are extremely, nitty gritty. Look, every letter, every word, what it means, and like that. This time, it's the lack of a Rashi. It's the lack of an explanation. The fact that Rashi doesn't ask something, that's what the teaching is about. So we're not. So it's an incredible teaching. But this time, the Rebbe is always, pushing us, expanding our knowledge and our brain power more and more. This time, it's not technical at all, but it's an emotionally hard sicha. So the first reaction is like, I listened to it 3 times. So the first time I was like fighting. And then the more I listen to it, and then I feel like you have to, we look at the world with our eyes, with our glasses. For this class, you have to take your glasses off. And you have to put on a different pair of glasses. You have to be open to look from the Rebbe's eyes, from a deeper perspective. And initially, when we first learn it, you're gonna say, "This is crazy." I can't handle this. And I have a million questions. And I actually, when I was learning, I actually took a piece of paper and I started writing all my questions, question after question after question. But by the time I finished the 3rd time, I don't even have to look back at the questions. I feel like I could calm down. I feel like I could start to digest it. So this is only class number 1. So after this, you have to listen to 2 more times. And then if you still have questions, we could bring about it. But yeah, so the intro to the class is that we have to make a distinction between pain and suffering. So this class is not going to minimize pain. Pain is real. And we have to have respect for people, for all people, and especially when someone's going through pain. That is holy ground, and we're not here to, we have to. That's sacred. That, when a person's experiencing pain, they're experiencing pain, and we're not here to take that away. But then there's something called suffering. Suffering is when we take it a step further. And we say, why me? A person gets a paper cut. Okay, there's pain in that cut. No one can take that away. But then, why me? And why always me? And that whole thought process, that is when a person inflicts more and more suffering upon themselves, and this might take the edge off the suffering. Okay, so we're right now in Parshas Shelach. And if you read the Psukim, if you look at this incredible source sheet, and I'll just do the English side. I'm going to read from Pasuk Yud Aleph, or Parshas Shelach, And there's going to be one word here that's very, very striking and very scary. I want you to find this one word while we read this psukim, a word that's very, very strong, that really we would never use such kind of terminology. And the biggest question is, why doesn't Rashi stop on this word and make a big deal? Okay, so here we go. The Lord said to Moses, how long will this people provoke me? How much longer will they not believe in me after all the signs I have performed in their midst? So what's going on here? We're talking about the Chet HaMeraglim. The spies were sent to spy out the land, and they come back with an evil report, and the Jews complain, and they cry, we don't want to go, we're scared, we're never going to, and they're afraid, and they say that there is no way that we're gonna able to. It says v'olam in haaretz. They're afraid that they're not going to able to be successful. They're doubting Hashem, and this is what's going on. What does Rashi say? Rashi, after all the signs, after all the miracles I performed for them, they should have believed that I am capable of fulfilling my promises. Pasuk Yud Beis 12. I will strike them with a plague and annihilate them. Then I will make you into a nation greater and stronger than they. Hashem says to Moshe, I'm going to annihilate the Jewish people, and I'm going to make a new nation starting from you. Does this sound familiar? When did we have this kind of conversation before? Yeah, by the golden calf. So we already had this. We already had this. This seems repetitious. It seems like it's happening again. The same threat. Moses said to the Lord, but the Egyptians will hear that you have brought this nation out from its midst with great power. Rashi, that you have brought us. In Hebrew, it says ki. This ki is used in the sense of asher, that. The nations will see that. And they saw that you brought them up from among them with your great might. You brought them from Egypt with great might. And when they hear that you killed them, they will not assume that they sinned against you. They're not, the Canaanim are not going to assume that the Yidden sinned against Hashem, but they will say that against them you were able to fight. They're going to say Hashem was able to fight against Egypt, but against the inhabitants of the land, you were unable to fight. Egypt is one nation. Canaan was 31 nations. They were living in Eretz Yisrael at the time. So to fight against one nation, Hashem could do. To fight against 31, Hashem can't do. Chas v'shalom. This is the meaning, and this is the meaning of the following verse. They will say about the inhabitants of this land, they will say, the Egyptians will say, it's either about or to the inhabitants of this land, the people that are living in Eretz Yisrael right now. And these people who have heard that you, O Lord, are in the midst of this people, the people of Canaan heard that Hashem is in the midst of the Yidden, that you, the Lord, appear to them eye to eye, that Hashem speaks to us eye to eye, that the Yidden, that we have Moshe Rabbeinu, and Moshe Rabbeinu, Hashem appears to Moshe Rabbeinu, and through that we have this unbelievable relationship with Hashem, that we know what Hashem wants, and through Moshe is speaking to Hashem and giving over Hashem's message to us, and that your cloud rests over them, and you go before them with a pillar of cloud by day and with a pillar of fire by night. Rashi, since the Lord lacked the ability, because they heard that you, O Lord, dwell among them, and you reveal yourself to them eye to eye in an affectionate manner. And until now, okay, so I apologize. When it says, Rashi says, and you reveal yourself to them eye to eye, it means in an affectionate manner. I guess like how, the eye contact when you're looking one person speaking to another. And until now, they had not realized that your love for them had been withdrawn. So when they see that you kill that you're going to go and kill the Yidden, if you fulfill your threat, then they're not going to say, oh, it's because the Yidden sinned against Hashem, they're going to say it's because Hashem can't do it. Hashem can't fight 31 nations. And if you kill this nation, 15, and if you kill this nation like one man, the nations who have heard of your reputation will say as follows. 16, since the Lord lacked the ability to bring this nation to the land which he swore to them, he slaughtered them in the desert. I'll read that again. Since the Lord lacked the ability to bring this nation to the land which he swore to them, because Hashem doesn't have the ability to fulfill his promise and to bring the Yidden to the land that he promised them, therefore he slaughtered them in the desert. And the Lord said, I have forgiven them in accordance with your word. Which also sounds familiar. Okay, so if you could tell me which one word strikes you as that doesn't fit here and is extremely appalling. What's the word?
Word of the last sentence where it's going to say that Hashem wasn't able to bring them into Israel.
Okay, so
he promised them.
Right. So
that's why he slaughtered them. So
you just said the word.
Oh, slaughtered them. So
slaughtered them.
Look like a bad God.
The word is slaughtered them. Do we say slaughtered about people? Except for Hamas. Right? But you could say that about Hamas, that they slaughter people. But usually we don't use the word slaughter for people. What do we use the word slaughter for? For animals.
Yeah, right.
So the question is, why doesn't Rashi stop? Why doesn't Rashi stop? What? This is a terrible word, a terrible word. That the guy, so ultimately, what is it? There's a conversation between Hashem and Moshe Rabbeinu, and Moshe says, if you kill them, what are the Goyim going to say?
Because you can't do it.
Since the Lord lacked the ability to bring the nation to the land which he swore to you, since they're thinking that you couldn't do it, therefore he slaughtered them in the desert. And he's saying it in the name of the Goyim.
Right. So that's
he doesn't say it earlier. We read a bunch of verses. The word slaughtered is specifically being used when Moshe Rabbeinu is saying what the Goyim would say.
Right.
Okay. So now, welcome. Okay. So here, just to review what we're saying. Okay. If there's anything difficult in the Torah, that a ben chamesh lemikra, a 5-year-old child who's learning chumash for the first time, anything that would trouble a ben chamesh lemikra, Rashi comes and stops on that and explains it to the 5-year-old. Okay, yeah, so it doesn't go according to your passport. It goes according. Yeah. So Rashi is coming to explain the simple explanation of the words for even a 5-year-old child. Even a 5-year-old child would wonder. So if Rashi doesn't come and stop, and if there's a question, and Rashi doesn't know the answer, Rashi is humble enough to say, I don't know the answer. So if there's a question, he's going to stop and he's going to address it. If the 1% chance that Rashi doesn't know, Rashi will say, I don't know. But if he doesn't stop, if Rashi doesn't stop, it means one of two things. Either that there's no question, because the solution is very obvious in the words of the Torah, or Rashi doesn't say anything because he already explained it previously. But here we have a very, very difficult question that even a 5-year-old child would pick up, and that is about the spies, the meraglim, the returning from scouting the land. And what happens? They complain. And Hashem is very upset. Why don't they believe in me? They should have trusted me from all the other times that I saved them. And Hashem says Hashem is ready to kill. He says in one swoop, Hashem is
When
planning.
did this conversation happen? Before the Miraglim, after the Miraglim?
After the Miraglim.
The
You just read
Miraglim
it
came
now,
back.
But I'm saying you just read it now, about Moshe having a conversation with Hashem. After the Miraglim.
After the Miraglim and after the Yidden complained,
Right, okay.
and Hashem says, I'm in one swoop, I'm gonna wipe them all out and start a new nation from Moshe Rabbeinu. And we're talking about a genocide. We're talking about 300 million people. Okay, so I'm sorry, 3 million. I'm sorry. We're talking about 600. At the time there were 600,000 adults, males, between the ages of 20 to 60. So you're not counting anyone who's under 20 or anyone who's over 60. And now this is just the males. And now they have wives and they have children. So you're talking about at least 3 million people. And Hashem is threatening to this genocide of killing 3 million people in one shot. And what do you think the reaction should be? What should the reaction be? Moshe should be screaming, "Don't do this!" But what does Moshe say? And who is Moshe Rabbeinu? Moshe Rabbeinu is the leader. He put his life on the line, and by Likkutei, by the golden calf, Moshe said, "Erasing from the book that you wrote." He's a Raya Neman, he's a faithful shepherd. Here, he doesn't come and say, "God, stop, this is crazy. How could you kill 3 million people in one shot?" We don't hear him saying that. What does Moshe Rabbeinu say? What are the nations going to say? If you do this, it's not a good strategy. What are the nations going to say? So when we're talking about a genocide, when we're talking about such an unbelievable loss of life, it's much the urgency should be. It's to scream, save the people's lives. Who cares about what the newspapers are going to say? And that was the title of the class. Yeah.
Okay. Hashem did get rid of 6 million Jews during the Holocaust.
I thought about it. We say
3 million. This is double. And where was the Moshe to say, what's the nation's going to
That's the
say?
problem, we didn't have a motion. That's why I got there.
Yes, but
We didn't have a motion.
have Moshe. We got Medinat
did
Israel.
everyone forget, all these holy people forget about Pashas, what the Shelach?
Oh, that question is only
Shelach.
how did he get to my argument after Chelek? That could be the question. The question is,
But
that's
if you
what we
think
know.
about
No,
it,
after Shelach, because Moshe said that. Moshe said that. So there were very big gedolim, not like Moshe, to say, Hashem, what are you doing? This is double the amount. What are the goyim going to say?
They
Where are
didn't
you?
know it's gonna be the
But-
dollar amount, right? You talk about after the fact.
And that's what
And
they
the goyim are saying, yes, but we are in the dollars now, we're not in the stage that we are.
And they keep saying it. till-
But you know what? You can't question. But I heard something about that. That's saying that a lot of people got killed in Germany. You know, the Nazis and all that, because they saw themselves as German Jewish. German first, then Jewish,
That was the problem.
and that was the
Yeah,
problem.
yeah.
So
We try not to.
they
think
did
like
say that. I don't know. They could, some of them could escape. They did not. They said German are good. But if you think about it, go back to Egypt. What the Israelites said.
Only one.
So we love Egyptians are good. We're going to stay. Nothing will happen to us. Guess what? Exactly like,
The land
yeah.
of the people.
And look what happened to them, to those people who believed in Egypt. So if you look back, we have Egypt with Holocaust. And now we're in terrible time in Israel. What's going on there too?
We're still the goal, still the
And we're
same.
still in Gola with the same issues.
Exactly.
Same issues. When you are detached from your core, God doesn't like it.
Okay, sorry, I interrupted.
No, that's a very valid question. So he said, we're not going to take away the pain. We're not going to take away the pain of 6 million. We're not going to take away the pain of October 7th. We can't take away the pain.
Right.
But we're going to get another perspective. We're going to get the Rebbe's perspective on this. Okay. So the question is, Hashem is threatening to wipe out all the Jewish people in one shot right now. Why is Moshe not doing what he did by the golden calf to say, listen, to beg for their lives? He's not begging for their lives. He's just saying, what are the nations going to say if you do this?
Maybe he's hoping that Hashem will give him direction on how to deal with the Yidden, because obviously they did this again.
Ah.
They're gonna keep on doing so.
Okay, you're getting to the answer.
Well,
Okay. And who are the Yidden? They're not just a nation. These are Hashem's children. This is Hashem's treasured nation. And Moshe Rabbeinu, he has the opportunity to respond to God right now. For what? So why is Moshe Rabbeinu worried about, you want to say about what the nation, the Tzachil Hashem, that's secondary. Okay, first fight for the Jews, and then say, and by the way, what are the nations going to say? It's not going to look good. But to immediately go and say, what are the nations going to say? What are the newspapers are going to say? What's going to be the headlines? That doesn't seem to make sense. Yeah. And previously, Moshe Rabbeinu was willing to sacrifice everything, materially, spiritually, everything for the Jews. And here, he's the defender of the Jewish people. Where is it? What's going on?
Well, I think he really defended them because he felt like they did something wrong. Here, probably realized that they are really acting.
And they're not ready to grow into Eretz
Well,
Yisrael.
they weren't believing on Hashem. They really had a lot.
That they really didn't want to go into Eretz Yisrael. If they
They
wanted
didn't wanna-
to go, they would not have come back with a bad report. And here he sees maybe that the nation really is not interested.
Well,
But
There's a different opinion, it's not like, people that are afraid to say, I just saw that now.
And according to
And I thought
the
They like the lifestyle.
The world?
down to physicality.
Sounds like I'm thinking about it now, like maybe that's the feeling, like you don't understand, but the same fear that some people have said, just for me now.
Yeah,
Like I met
interesting.
some people that I am not the people, like happy, but someone told me that, and I maybe it's the same thing. It's a threat.
Right.
Then we think about that, that's how the real threat was to them.
Right. Okay, so that's an interesting point. Saying there are although it says that Hashem that Hashem's eyes are always on Eretz Yisrael, and Eretz Yisrael is the safest place. But there are some people that are afraid to go to Israel or today. So
But
she's
some of the
comparing,
mindset that's having that you relate to it.
but
That's how they felt. So we
No,
think
but-
about that, like,
it's ultimately a lack
I
of
don't
faith.
think so,
for them, it was
because-
the same
Yeah,
fear
but
to me.
it's not the same fear, because
Right.
they just saw all the Nisim.
I know, but
They
you know
saw
what?
the Midbar.
I
they
heard
saw-
about, I just heard
the
Shlomo
March,
Shabbos,
they saw-
actually very good, very Blyer spoke about it, and I also, there was, I can't go into the whole thing, but like, how do we understand the VM, right? Like, Hamlacha and out the killing and what was going on, but they had the Vu, and then they were worship, think about it, they worship idols, when they just saw the Vua, Hashem speaking to them, the Baal Pa'ar and all this stuff. He went into like the fact that the same way that their Nevuah was so close, the same aspect of their, that we can't judge them because they were still a different level, that the same, it's the same, Ra and Tov is equal. Much Hashem puts Ra,
Yes.
the Tov is, so that level is, they saw Hashem, but the same level of, it's the
The
same.
other side.
Followers also.
Yeah.
They tell her.
Yeah.
So that's what you have to understand, like, they were so much closer, but then they're not believing so much, it's the same level up there, you know? So we can't understand it.
Right.
Okay.
Like-
P.S. I have to insert this, and that is another teaching of the Rebbe. The Rebbe explains that they complained, according to the Pshat, according to the simple interpretation, they were afraid that there was a lack of Amunah. But in other teachings, the Rebbe says that that in the desert, Bela knows where I'm going with this. In the desert, the Yidden, all they had to do was learn Torah whole day. They didn't have to worry about their clothing. They didn't have to worry about their food.
Right.
They didn't have to worry.
Now they're working.
Now they have to work.
They're gonna have to work.
And they're gonna have to go into the physical world, and they're not gonna be able to learn Torah night and day. And they're gonna have to worry about the physical food and then everything like that. They have to work.
Washing the clothes.
So they said, listen, what do we need this for? Better for us to stay in the desert. We'll learn Torah whole day. We don't want to be busy with the physical world. Leave us alone. So but ultimately Hashem wants that yes, we should go into the physical world, and yes, we should elevate the world. So it could be that it came, according to that teaching, it could be that it came from a good place, a place that they wanted to be close to Hashem. They didn't want to be busy with the physical, and that's why they complained. So that's
Takes care.
yes, okay, but
That's why Hashem will tell you to want to do something, not doing what Hashem has malachim, like he doesn't need you to be.
Right.
So that's what they choose to do. Hashem is sort of saying like, I don't need them.
It's not the purpose of people.
It's that, yeah. Humanity was created to change this world.
right. Okay, so So obviously, in any way you look at it, whether it be from the simple interpretation or even a deeper interpretation, Hashem has a mission for us. And ultimately, the end is that these people did not end up going into Eretz Yisrael. They didn't.
They died.
They died in over 40 years in the desert.
40 years in the desert.
Died. But
Well, it's 600,000. It's because it was the men
in
between
the desert.
20 and 60.
it was only the males?
Only the
The
male.
women didn't die?
They died suddenly over a time, like.
Over 40 years.
Like, was that an actor or was it like?
And the next generation went.
Every fishbowl, everybody had, they dug a cave, they went in, whoever stayed alive came out.
That's
But
when
it went down 40 years.
Was it like?
Right, I never thought about it.
Every year, some of them died, maybe.
But it's interesting. That's all male.
I don't know, it doesn't, I don't remember
Because-
about it according to us.
Like, how
But
did
they
See,
died,
because
was it like
the
according
women
to how much a
Doesn't
complaint
have the mitzvah to do all the male job, because we have kids.
It's like the older
Right,
ones
that
are
was
like,
about-
how did like die out?
So how did
I-
it die
I-
out?
They died, like, was it by age or was it by?
I think like I said, like that, but like,
Does
doesn't
that happen in general?
they just die out naturally, like, you know.
I thought that it was by age. I thought that it was by age.
Maybe.
I don't know. We have to look into it. Okay, but in any case,
A lot of- Right, well, that's what our life, they live longer than us, I think. Did it?
No, not
No,
the years before this one, before that.
Why didn't that people live a long time? People went, some of them were around a long time. I know, you're knocking on me now.
well, obviously this is a
Yeah,
punishment.
singles
Right.
alone, but not a generation.
But-
And then Nabi was like, you know,
Okay. So I'm saying it's different if a person dies at 20 and if they die at 60.
Right.
The dying at 60 is also dying at a young
Right.
age. But we have to find out. Yeah, great question. Okay, so in any case, we're questioning why doesn't Moshe come to the defense of the Jewish people?
Mhm.
Because when Hashem threatens, he was threatening to wipe out all the Jewish people,
Mhm.
not just the men. What he said, I'm going to start a new generation I'm going to start a new nation with Moshe Rabbeinu. So all the lives of the Jewish people are at stake right now, even the children, right? Who for sure the children didn't die. Right, because they went into they were the ones who went in they went into Israel. So all the Jewish people's lives are at stake right now. And what do we find? And Moshe doesn't say and complain and say, how could you do this? It said, how could you destroy the Jewish people? But what are the nations going to say? And guess what? That is what worked.
That's the last thing we're supposed to say. When we're, what is.
What are the people going to think of you? What is the world going to say?
Today we're going to
Right?
the same thing in Israel. What the
But
world
yet-
will say to us?
Right, but yet, what does it say? Oh,
Moshe went to Hashem and they're doing like, you know. they
But
don't
that's
ask
the
Hashem,
last
you
thing
know,
that we're supposed to
right.
care about.
it's the last thing we're supposed to care about, and yet after
Maybe not, we're only supposed to make a Kiddush Hashem, so we're not.
but we first have to worry about people's lives. Then we have to worry about Kiddush Hashem,
Right.
right? We have to, right? So, but ultimately, what happens? Moshe Rabbeinu says, since the Lord lacked the ability to bring this nation to the land which He swore to them, He stored them in the desert. He's quoting what what our enemies will say, and then what does that Lord? And the Lord said, "I have forgiven them in accordance with Your word." Hashem forgave them based on what? Based on the Chol Hashem, based on what Moshe is saying, what terrible desecration it's going to be, what other nations are going to say, what's going to be in the newspapers. What?
But that makes sense.
It didn't annihilate the old nation.
That makes sense.
But only those that those that think they'll go, but
Because Hashem said you
Those
can go
are
in.
those are under 20, those under 20 say, "Why they go in?"
Then
They don't go out.
Hashem, it makes sense that he would.
So the fact, again,
They were.
the fact that it's a Chil Hashem,
Hashem raised sin, but it's not
No,
a
but
this
Hashem, but like-
punishment of raising
It
all
showed the world
the
that Hashem, you came to this.
there is
nation.
accountability.
Yeah,
There's
the
no
nation
like, you know,
that-
okay, fine, sorry,
Yes.
no problem. There's
So-
accountability. It's not
yeah.
like, you know.
so for Hashem to wipe out all the Jewish people at that time, it would be a tremendous Chil Hashem. And yes, that is definitely a big part of it. But we don't find, but first the genocide, the killing of so many people, 3 million people, first object to that. Then we'll talk about the Chil Hashem.
Mhm.
It's true. It's gonna be a Chil Hashem. It's a terrible thing. But we don't find Moshe pleading on behalf to save the 3 million people.
Maybe he thought that was right to do that.
So let's see, let's see.
That makes sense.
Or he felt the.
What makes sense? What makes sense? What makes sense?
You like, get rid of
No, chas v'shalom.
It's like you know, the teachers in the class and they're all misbehaving.
But look, 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 we're mothers, okay? Look, we have children, Baruch Hashem, our children are good most of the time. But I'm saying as mothers, our children are our children. We're not exchanging them for anybody else.
Correct.
And it says that Hashem is not exchanging us for any other nation. They complained and it was a terrible thing, but we don't exchange our kids for other kids just because they got us angry.
You gotta see Scar and Orange, I guess. He said.
Okay, so yeah, we teach, but one thing.
Do this, that parsha before last week, when in all right? I was like, if you do this, man, you get this. There has to be some sort of.
Yes, there has to be reward and punishment, absolutely. But this is a huge threat to all the Jewish people.
This is the base of Amunah, this we're teaching. This is the core of Yiddishkeit.
Okay.
Right?
Okay, so.
We're spread to buy everything. Don't tell them.
You know, you take me for granted. I'm so.
Core of Hashem.
Yeah, okay, you're all on the right track, 100%. Okay, so I'm just trying to go in order, not to jump the gun. Okay, so basically, what's the plan? The plan is we're not going to make a Chil Hashem. We're going to stagger the death over 40 years, so that that the other nations shouldn't realize that all these people are dying. We're trying to minimize the Chil Hashem. That's the plan. And it's we can't imagine that Rashi doesn't stop and address this. There's a huge issue here. The issue is, why doesn't Moshe come to the defense of 3 million people? And Rashi doesn't say boo. And if Rashi doesn't say boo, it's because the answer is so simple that it's in the pasuk. And you should figure it out yourself. but we need the rabbi to help us figure it out. And the answer is, read the pasuk again. The answer is this one scary word, which is vayishchatem. He slaughtered them.
What?
Vayishchatem bamidbar.
Slaughtered.
He slaughtered them in the desert.
He stored them?
Slaughtered. Shchita. From this word shchita, we're going to understand. Okay, so there's no Rashi here, but the Rebbe brings this question to all of us and says, from the word vayishchatem, we understand why Rashi doesn't have a problem with this.
Think about what happened in October 7th. They did it. Shchatu otanu.
Yes.
Totally.
Okay, so let's see. And it's so interesting. Now that, as I say, that the processing of the class happens here. It's very interesting that when we say Hamas, when we talk about Hamas, we say that they slaughtered us.
Yeah.
We're using this word also, slaughtered,
Correct.
which is not a word that we use for people.
Correct.
What is shchita? What is slaughtering used for? It's used for animals. What does shchita do?
Right.
Yeah, it kills them in a way that they don't even feel it.
Right.
So first of all, it kills the animal in the way that you don't feel it. But the shchita prepares the animal for the Jewish person's consumption. So what does the shchita actually do? It actually elevates the animal. It prepares the animal for us to use it. And it actually refines and it actually elevates the animal. It should be something that a human being could eat. So the intention of the shchita is not just, oh, we're going to kill the animal because we want to kill, but rather it's to add value to the animal. Previously, it was just an animal that was in the field grazing. And now we're going to elevate the animal, and the person is going to eat it, and the animal is going to be elevated, and it's going to become part of a Jewish person. There are 4 levels in creation. There's daimem, there's 4 different types of things that God created. The inanimate, daimem, semeach, the things that grow, chai is animals, and medaber is people, and then above that is the Jew. But basically, you're taking from the category of animal, and it's being elevated to the category of a human being, because whatever a person eats, it becomes part of them. Here, the animal got an elevation, and now it's become part of the human species. It becomes part of the Jew. And we have a precedent for this by the Akedah. Hashem tells Avraham to take his son and to slaughter him. He uses the word shchita. To slaughter his son. Was it just for the purpose of killing him? It was for the purpose of elevating him, that he should be a carbon oila. They should be like a sacrifice for Hashem. The point was to elevate Yitzchak. It wasn't just to kill, because in those days people would kill, to serve their idols or whatever it is. They would kill people, but this wasn't just for the purpose of killing. This was for the purpose of giving him an elevation.
So think about those who nishpatu in 10-7, they become Ahudei Malchut, also they got elevation from that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they got
Anyone
elevation.
who's killed Akidah Hashem obviously gets
Yeah.
absolutely.
Every single person that was
Yeah,
murdered.
it was Ahudei Malchut, Kiddush Hashem.
That's so.
That's the Holocaust also. that
Crazy,
answers the
right?
question of the
Holocaust too.
Holocaust. It's not 6
Because you were
million
killed because you're
There was
Jewish.
6 million Kedoshim.
Wow. You just said it.
Wow.
You just said it. It's not, if you look at it, it's a different, we're not taking away the pain. We're not taking away the pain. But instead of looking at it, 6 million people were killed, you have 6 million Kedoshim. I have chills. I have chills from that's you just summarized the whole class. That's what we're saying. That they're saying it's not there's no purpose. It's not that it's just random, but it's 6 million Kedoshim. And the same as with October 7th.
October 7th, right.
Okay. So we know it's very, very clear that Hashem is compassionate, and Hashem is the ultimate goodness. The ultimate goodness and kindness comes from Hashem. And whatever Hashem instructs us to do, the Torah, the mitzvahs, it's all for our benefit. And it's like it says in if you go in my ways, which represents learning Torah, having toiling and learning Torah and doing mitzvahs, then they're going to get the rain in the right time. And the way it's supposed to be is that we should follow what Hashem says, and then we're going to have a good, even we're going to have even physically, we're going to have a good life. So everything that Hashem does, all the mitzvahs that Hashem gives us, it's for our benefit. If this is the way it is, with the mitzvahs that Hashem gave us, then we also have to say that the opposite is true as well. That the consequences and the punishments that we get that people get for ignoring the commandments, it's not because Hashem is mean and that Hashem has a sadistic streak inside of him and he wants to take revenge on us, but rather it's not to punish us and to hurt us and to pay us back, but rather it's for our benefit.
Like they say, the Gehenna is not forever to be there. In the Goyish world, Gehenna is forever. But in the Yiddish world, Gehenna has a temporary place because it's just to purify us.
It's just a purification.
It's pure by that
Right.
Yeah. It's
that's
everything that seems to us as a punishment. If we put, as again, we're not taking away the pain, but we're taking away the suffering. It's not, it's not that it was random and that it was senseless, but rather it's for our benefit. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's for our benefit, and not just for our benefit, it's for our elevation.
I think it's easy to learn, but let's say
Right.
we have a debt, right? That's what you're thinking.
Yes.
Yeah, like my sister died, so yeah, because we're Jews, we could be accepting and we could go on.
Mhm.
But for the person themselves, yeah, they'll be elevated, they're gonna daven more, they're gonna whatever. Because.
Okay, so we have to, you're 100% right, we have to stop right here and say this. If a person passes away early
Mhm.
or at a young age,
Mhm.
so there are different reasons why they could pass away.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean, if a person passes, there are some people
Mhm.
that if they pass away early, it's because
They finished the mission in this
okay,
world.
so let's start from there. If a person passed away, passed away early, or a child that passed away,
Mhm.
right? Then it's obviously because their mission on this earth is over.
Over.
It doesn't mean that they were a bad person. It could be they never did anything wrong in their whole life.
Yeah.
A stillborn baby didn't do anything, right? Or a child, or you know. There are different circumstances. There are different situations when a person's life ends early. So we're not going across the board. We're obviously, there's a story that comes to mind. I don't want to take too much time, but there's a story that comes to mind that there was, I think it was about the Baal Shem Tov. There was a couple that didn't have children, and they came time and again, and they begged for a child, and they were never blessed with a child. And one time, and then finally they begged and begged, and I think it was the Baal Shem Tov, he thought about it, he put his head down for a while, and then finally he said, okay, I will bless you with the child. And then they had a baby boy. And then at the age of 2, the baby passed away. And they came crying to the Baal Shem Tov, and they said, how could this be? You finally blessed us, and after 2 years, the baby was they passed away. So he told them a whole story that there was a paritz that didn't have any children, and the paritz had an advisor. The advisor said, "Tell the Jews that if your wife, if you don't have a baby, you're going to kick out all the people from your province." So all the Jews went to the shul and they fasted, they davened to Hashem that please bless this paritz with a child so we could be able to stay here. So Hashem went to all the neshamas, and Hashem said, "Which Jewish neshama wants to have Mesiras Nefesh and is going to volunteer to be born to this paritz, to this paritz and his wife who are not Jewish, just to save the Jewish people? They shouldn't be kicked out of the land." And so one neshama volunteered. The neshama came down, and the neshama was obviously a very, very bright soul, but it was in a Gaisha home, in a Gaisha body. And the paritz was obviously delighted that they had this baby boy, and he hired the best teachers. Now this boy was so brilliant; he was smarter than all the teachers, and no one could quench his thirst for knowledge. So the paritz said, "You know what? I'm going to get a priest, a galach, to come and teach my son. Maybe some religious studies will help him." And he hires this galach, and the galach says, "I'm going to come and teach your son on one condition. Every single day, I'm going to have 1 hour that I could be in my room and no one's going to bother me, and I have my own private time for 1 hour a day, or maybe it's 2 hours a day." And the paritz said, "No problem." And this galach was brilliant teacher, and the boy loved him. And the boy was very curious. What is this galach? What is this priest doing for this hour or two a day that he's locked in his room? At one time, the little boy decides that he's going to hide in the room and to see what is his teacher doing in this time. And sure enough, he's hiding behind the curtain, and he sees that this galach rips off the cross, rips off the black robes, and he has this bag, he unzips it, and what does he take out? These black boxes and this white shawl with black black stripes, and he's immersed in prayer, and he comes out, and the galach is horrified. He was and he says, "Tell me, what are you doing?" So he says, "If your father knows what I'm doing, I'm going to be killed. I'm a Jew. I'm hiding my Jewishness for whatever reason it was, and maybe there was persecution at the time, and he says, if your father finds out, I'm finished. So the boy says, I promise I will not divulge your secret if you teach me everything about Judaism. And the boy learns everything about Yiddishkeit, and then he wants to convert. So what's he going to tell his father? Tells his father, listen, I want to go to a faraway place, to go to somewhere to study. And he leaves his father's house, and he ends up going and he converts and he becomes a Jew without his father knowing. Of course, he sends father letters and everything like that. Then there was a pogrom, and the Parit's son, who converted and became a Jew, was murdered. And the soul comes up to heaven. A perfect soul. He converted to Yiddishkeit. He had the sacrifice to be born into this Paritz. And this soul should go straight to the highest, to Kisei HaKavod. And there was one problem. That for the first two, when he was born to a non-Jewish mother, and he nursed, and he had non-Jewish milk. He was nursed from a non-Jewish mother. So the best purification for the soul was to come down just for 2 years, to be nursed by a Jewish mother, and then he could go straight to the Kisei HaKavod. And the Baal Shem Tov said, this neshama that you had, that this baby boy that you had, this was the neshama that had to come down just for 2 years to be nursed by a Jewish mother. And the parents heard this and it gave them nechama, gave them comfort. So if a 2-year-old child, God forbid, passes away, you can't say, oh, it's because they sinned. Right. And therefore they sinned so terribly and they have such a lack of faith in God that their life had to be taken early. But, so we don't know which neshama is what, we don't know. But there are, yeah.
Why did it have to be a Jewish neshama to come down? Why not just?
Because he converted.
No.
Why couldn't the Paritz just have? That's a very good question. I don't know the answer. I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know.
I guess no Goyish neshama wanted to come and do the sacrifice. Only Jewish neshama wanted to save the Jewish people.
Yeah.
I guess it shows you the sensitivity of Jewish neshama to save the whole people, to save the whole Jewish nation.
Yeah, just as a by the way, Rabbi Yossi Plotia lost his child, and he said that when people would come and tell the story, it didn't bring him comfort.
No.
But then I heard, Yomina, what's her name? Yomina.
Oh, Yomina
she said she's always, you heard this recently?
She also lost.
She's very,
she
she always tries to be, she's positive, whatever, and someone said to her, someone in her class said to her, you're not depressed enough for your child. She goes, so I have to be depressed, so I should be depressed, so then I'll be depressed. She said, And then Charlene Naminoff said she had 11 miscarriages, and the doctor said, you are never gonna have a kid.
And
she came home to her mother. Right afterwards, someone said, that's who's in charge. They started dancing. She had 5 kids.
Wow.
So she said each one was not easy, but at the end of the day, she changed her life. She took off her pants. She blew them out. She said, I gave it to the cleaning lady. She goes, I didn't want to give it to my friends who wear pants because I didn't want them.
Right.
I don't want to be, part of their whatever
the
and that kind of thing. And she had her 3 kids. And a kid drowned, she covered her.
Yeah.
So each person.
We don't know
We don't know.
The question we have, I guess the pain is not that the soul, we know, it finished with, it stopped and whatever, but those that are around, they stay with the loss and the pain.
Right. We can't take away the pain. We can't take away the pain.
Yeah.
We can't take away the pain. But we see this, we actually see a precedent for this. We see Avram Avinu. Avram Avinu was the greatest tzaddik, right? Never did anything wrong. And yet, his life was taken 5 years prematurely in order that he should not see his grandson Esav's misbehavior.
Wow.
So sometimes Hashem sees that for a particular soul, it's better to take their life early, to save them from a difficult life in this world.
Isn't that taking away someone's free choice?
That's one of my
But then
questions.
God knows what's right for you, I guess, those people.
No, we always say that we have free choice.
Yeah.
Yes.
Where's free choice with everything?
Right.
We don't have choice from life and death, I don't think we don't.
No, I'm saying free choice of.
A difficult world, right.
Hashem was protecting Avram, maybe Avram would be more accepting,
Maybe
maybe
it's
he would
like
be
that.
accepting, maybe he would.
But I
be
guess
happy with
he knows
himself.
Avraham Neshama. But God knows Avraham Neshama.
Hashem will put us into place, God says how we're gonna use that.
Right.
But Hashem will say that we have a difficult life and how you, the choice of how you're gonna go through this life.
Right, so why couldn't that happen to that one? Like,
Maybe he knew that it would be too much
Maybe you don't
stuff.
want to give them like trouble.
It would be too much
That's
stuff.
what we say when someone has a choice.
So you don't say, let's see if you can hit another test, he did so many tests, but have this one. He did so many tests, he couldn't do the last test, that thing is done.
Right, I say, yeah, we're back to example.
So Hashem,
Okay.
we have free
Question
choice.
God.
That's one of, we definitely have free choice. But at the same time, Hashem knows what we're going to choose. For example, and I have to discuss what free choice is, because free choice is not apple, not a lollipop and broccoli. That's not free choice. Free choice is two apples that are identical.
Right.
We discussed that in Tanya. But in any case, Hashem doesn't want that our neshama should come to a place where they're so far gone that they despise their own life, and that the person says, "What's the point of living?"
They do this. They do. They put it back.
There are,
But
Yeah,
yeah,
a lot
like,
lately.
so what about, yeah, those people that are.
It's happening a lot lately.
With suicide.
What?
I know somebody who committed
Yesterday?
Really?
I have three people less. Right now, in this street, it's like, no, no.
Oh,
Somebody who had Parkinson's.
yeah. Somebody what?
Really?
Wow.
so sometimes Hashem sees a neshama. The person is so you see, we also have to realize that it's not that a person shows lack of faith and then boom, the next day they're dead. And the same is with, what's the difference between the Chet HaEgel, the golden calf, and now the sin of the Meraglim? This is the first time, this is the answer. The first time where the Chet HaEgel, Moshe Rabbeinu could come and he could plead for the people, and he said, listen, give them a chance to do teshuvah. Because if they do teshuvah, then they're not going to have a horrible spiritual life. If a person goes against Hashem and they say, I'm in such a bad place, life is not worth living. But sometimes when they reach that place, life is not worth living, they reach rock bottom, that's when they'll turn around and do teshuvah, and they'll return to Hashem. And then life is very much worth living. They can return to Hashem. So this Meraglim, it's not time number one that they're showing a lack of faith. And it's not just a sin that by mistake they turn the light on Shabbos. We're talking about a core thing of belief in God. The problem with the Meraglim is not that they were hungry. They complain that they're hungry. They complain that they're thirsty. This was the problem was a core problem that they don't have enough faith after everything Hashem did for them. They don't have enough faith that Hashem is going to be able to take them into the land. So there's two problems. Problem number one is it's not their first offense. And problem number two, what is the offense? The offense is something of faith in God. So for a person who time and again makes, obviously we're not here to judge, but the situation is that sometimes if there's a person who time and again doesn't listen to Hashem and doesn't believe in Hashem, and is like the Meraglim, that they're getting other people not to believe in Hashem, to convince other people this is not a good idea. So for such a soul, because everything Hashem does is good, and because we are Hashem's children, and Hashem sees this soul, this neshama, and Hashem says, you know what? This soul is not getting it. I hate to give this example, But I'm saying a person is toilet training their child. They try for one toilet training. You toilet train 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, it's not working. So you have a choice. You can say, you know what? This child is not ready right now. I'll try again in a few months.
Mhm.
So the Hashem says this neshama, for some reason, it keeps tripping on this with regards to believing in Hashem. It keeps falling again and again and again. And maybe for this neshama, I have to come and take it out. In my children's school, every year they go to the farm and they get chicks.
Mhm.
And they get eggs and they put them in an incubator and the chicks hatch, and it's wonderful for the kids to learn whatever.
Oh.
But not always do all the eggs hatch. Not always do all the chicks come out.
Right.
Sometimes more, sometimes less. Every year is different. I'm saying there are some neshamas that this little neshamala, it keeps falling into the mud.
Don't forget that they were traumatized in
Not
society, so sometimes they can't
Yeah,
get rid of
it's
that.
trauma, you're right, but then what's the hope for future generations? It's like,
Hashem has a journey for each of us.
true, like,
Yeah.
Hashem's
How
like,
everybody
there's a
makes
whole generation who, like you said, has the trauma from the time, so Hashem, so miracle.
We have trauma from time, trauma from the Shoah, trauma from 10/7. We never, it looks like we're repeating the same thing.
We had 6 years. Look how many didn't make it through. They couldn't stay Yiddish. They said goodbye to their Yiddish
Mhm.
from the
But
Holocaust.
that's when Hashem,
A lot.
that's when Hashem
Correct.
gave us free choice, gave them, not that it's easy choice, but here Hashem is literally saying, I'm gonna slaughter you, I'm not giving you any hope for.
He's gonna elevate them.
Ah,
That's what she's.
So that's
Right.
the thing of it is, the death itself is a form of purification
Mhm.
for this neshama that keeps falling, and
So the Neshama will come back in a better form, that's what Hashem would have done.
maybe that's Hashem's
Maybe.
plan for that neshama. The neshamas come down more than once to fulfill their mission. But
Or the cat, like the cat.
It-
they were shut down.
Or like our women food, right?
Yes.
Even that God shows them. Not everyone was הרוגי מלכות. יש כאלה got saved. So even with that, God is choosing who would live and who would die. Who was הרוגי מלכות. You're talking about that, yeah.
okay, so ultimately that didn't. Okay, so they all. I'm saying they did. Those that complain they did die in the desert. Right.
He punished them as a punishment,
Right.
but he didn't. I don't know for Hashem to say
But
that.
their future generation continuation came to Israel. So it didn't wipe out.
With Moshe Rabbeinu. Well, Hashem threatened to do that.
But he didn't do it,
He didn't do it in the end. But the golden calf also, Hashem threatened the same thing. But the point is that this world is not the only world.
Mhm.
That's the point.
There's an eternal world after this world.
Mhm.
And even a child can understand that sometimes it's worth exiting this life in order to have access to the next life. So as I said, we can't take away the pain, but it's to save them. Sometimes a person is their own enemy.
Mhm.
It's to save themselves from themselves.
Then why was Moshe begging for them alive?
So Moshe didn't. Moshe did not beg.
He said, for the sake, not for the sake of them, but for the sake of the other nation.
So Moshe did not say, Hashem, save the people. Because Hashem saw. Let's not, right. The question is, why doesn't Moshe come to their defense? And the answer is because this is not the first time that they're showing a lack of faith. It's time and again that they're complaining and showing a lack of faith. So Moshe Rabbeinu says, I can't, you might be right. That maybe we have to, I can't even say the words, but maybe we have to slaughter these souls and slaughter, not just to kill them, just out of the punishment, to spite them, to take revenge, but to slaughter. What does a slaughter mean? What does it mean to slaughter? How does the process happen? The sheikh takes a knife, and he takes the knife and he brings the knife closer to him. You're taking it from one place to another place. The slaughtering, the shechita, come from the word limshoch, to draw from one place to another place, to draw them from this world, to bring them to another world where they'll see Hashem's capabilities, where they will be elevated and purified. Because ultimately, it's all Hashem is looking out. What is the best thing for this? What is the best thing for this neshama?
So why do Hashem and Moshe care what the other nations are going to think? So let them think that Hashem can't fight.
Excellent question. Excellent question. So we're going to answer that now. Okay.
Yeah, I need to.
It is scary.
So far.
I know it's hard. I know.
Very hard.
We are all here as a piece of a neshama, but
Yeah.
we're all a branch of another neshama.
Yeah, we came here to do some tikkun. Each one has a tikkun. But we are here doing tikkun.
Keep on going back and we circle and we go back.
But if you ask, do you believe in me?
I do believe, but
Okay,
I have
basically.
a flash of faith.
This is us, this is us we're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the answer to the question. The question like this. What's the problem? The problem is that the Yidden showed a lack of faith in God. So therefore, what does Hashem want to do? Hashem wants to slaughter them. So Moshe Rabbeinu comes with a taina to Hashem. He says, look, the Yidden already didn't believe in you. But if you slaughter them all at once, then what's going to happen? The rest of the nations are not going to believe in you either. How could you fix a problem that the Jewish people aren't believing in you? If you do this, you're going to make that all the nations won't believe in you. And then even the other nations aren't going to even do the 7 mitzvahs b'nei Nayach, the 7 mitzvahs b'nei Nayach. They're not going to even do what you commanded them to do. They're also not going to do. Because what are they going to say? They're going to say they're going to doubt you also. Here you love them and took them out of Egypt and promised them they're going to take them to Eretz Yisrael, and you weren't able to do that. So why should we listen? The nation can say, why should we listen to what you want from us to do? That we should not kill and not steal and have courts of law. Why should we listen to you? So you can't fix. There's a problem. The Jewish people don't believe in you. How could you fix that problem? By slaughtering them, because by causing the rest of the world also not to believe in you. It's not a good strategy. Okay, because Hashem wants to ultimately to achieve that people should believe in Him. By killing the Jews all at once, He's going to accomplish the opposite. The Goyim are going to say, "This is a weak God." The Goyim are not going to conclude and say, "Oh, the Yidden sinned, and Hashem really could have brought them into Eretz Yisrael." But because they sinned, Hashem didn't, they're not going to make that conclusion. They're not going to come to that conclusion. And therefore, it's a very bad idea. It's a very bad idea to kill out the Yidden, because the Goyim are going to say, oh, one nation against Egypt, that Hashem could do, but 31 kings, Hashem can't do that. But this answer is not good enough. Because the Rebbe says that the Goyim are smarter than we are smart. And the Goyim know that Hashem loves us. Now, the Goyim know that we're Hashem's treasured nation. So if Hashem slaughters them, then the Goyim will understand that it's because the Yidden didn't follow Hashem's ways. So what's the Goyim's issue? Why will they not? Why was it Bechel Hashem? Because of where this is happening. Because of the staging ground. Where is this happening? It's happening in the desert. The Goyim will ask as follows: if the Yidden sinned against you and you want to get rid of them, you want to slaughter them, first bring them into the land, fulfill your promise, and then get even with them, and then slaughter them. The fact that you're storing them in the desert means that you don't have the ability to bring them into the land. First fulfill your promise. You promised you're going to take them into the land. They're misbehaving. They're not listening to you. Take them into the land. It'll be amazing. Take them into the land. Prove to them that you're God and you're able to do it. And then if you have issues with them, okay, you want to punish them after that? You want to slaughter them after that? You want to give them elevation for that after that? Fine. But so it's not just vishchatem. It's not just that Hashem stored them, but bamidbar, in the desert. You're storing them in the desert before you're fulfilling your promise. Oh, that means that you can't do it. And therefore, it's a chil Hashem. And therefore, it's not a good idea. Hashem says, you're right. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to take 40 years. It's going to take over a period of 40 years for them to die out, and then their children will go into the land. Which is also,
But it's over time, so that.
But
they're
it's
not
over
paying-
time for the
they're
one
not paying
connected
attention
back.
to it.
Yeah.
Well, the goal was to take them into Yisrael, so those who really go, just interesting that over the years, the Goyim forgot that Hashem took us into
Right.
Yisrael.
Right.
Over the 3,000 years, they totally forgot.
Well, they choose to
No,
not.
they don't want to.
What'd you say?
They choose to not remember.
Yeah. Let them know.
okay. So we asked the question and we answered it. But now we're going to go back to this concept of vayishchatem, of this concept of slaughtering. And we're going to, we have to go back and explain and delve into a little bit this concept of that when Hashem takes a life, that ultimately it's for their elevation. And we're going to prove that. Okay. So for this, we're going to speak about, we're going to take the next page. And this is the Mishnah and the Gemara. And it speaks about, did the Meraglim end up with a place in Olam Haba or not? And there's a difference of opinion between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Akiva about whether the spies that you see the rest of the Jews that complained over 40 years they died, but the Meraglim themselves, the spies themselves, died right away. And the question is, did they get Olam Haba or not? Okay, I'm telling you the answer. The answer is that they did. And the proof is, because we said the word vayishchatem, that if Hashem is taking a life, it's only for their purification. So yes, the Meraglim, and all the people that complained that died on the desert, ultimately the answer is going to be that yes, they got Olam Haba. And yes, they're going to get Tchias HaMesim. What? So if you look in the Mishnah, it's on the second page of the source sheet that I sent. I'm just going to read it. This is the Mishnah. And it says in Sanhedrin, the spies who spread an evil report of their visit to Canaan have no share in the world to come. As it is stated, and those men who spread the evil report about the land died by plague before the Lord. And died indicates in this world, by plague indicates the world to come. This is Mishnah. The Rebbe is coming to I'm bringing this here because he's bringing out the point. He's bringing that yes, they do get Olam Haba, and that's the Rebbe who's our Moshe Rabbeinu is fighting for every single Jew for this generation and way back then. Okay, the members of the generation of the wilderness have no share in the world to come and will not stand in judgment. As it is stated, in this wilderness they shall be consumed, and there they shall die. They shall be consumed indicates in this world, and there they shall die indicates for the world to come. This is the statement of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva, who always speaks about Ahavas Yisrael. He's saying in the Mishnah that both the Meraglim and the nation and all the entire generation have no share in the world to come. Rabbi Eliezer says the opposite. He disagrees with Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Eliezer says the members of the generation of the wilderness were essentially righteous. And about them, the verse says, gather my pious together to me, those who have entered into my covenant by offering. This comes from Tehillim. It is they who entered into the covenant with God, and they will certainly be rewarded in the future. Rabbi Eliezer disagrees with Rabbi Akiva, and he says no, that they will have Olam Haba. Okay, now the Gemara. Yes.
Where's their proof that because it says they will die, it means Olam Haba?
Okay, so it brought you the proof. It's Bamidbar Yudal Lamed Zayin and Bamidbar Yudal Lamed Hey, because it says in the pasuk, those men who spread the evil report about the land died by plague before the Lord. So because it says died, and by plague, died is Olam Hazeh, and plague is Olam Haba. And the same is the next pasuk. In the wilderness they shall be consumed, and there they shall die. Because a double lashon, it learns. Rabbi Akiva learns from this, from the pasuk. That's how he learns al mazen al maba. But Rabbi Eliezer says no. Rabbi Eliezer brings a different proof. Rabbi Eliezer brings Tehillim, and he says isfuli chasidai karse brisi ale zavach. He says that these people, they entered a covenant with Hashem, and therefore. It's not, he disagrees, and he says, yes, they do get Olam Haba. I'm just going to read the Gemara, and then I'm going to explain it, So I'm reading Gemara. The Mishnah teaches, the members of the generation of the wilderness have no share in the world to come. The sages taught, the members of the generation of the wilderness have no share in the world to come, as it is stated, in the wilderness they shall be consumed, and there they shall die. They shall be consumed indicates in this world, and there they shall die indicates the world to come. And the verse states, with regard to the generation of the wilderness, wherefore I took an oath in my anger that they should not enter into my rest, indicating that they will not be privileged to gain eternal rest. This is the same Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva takes from Tehillim in the Gemara, and he says that Hashem took an oath. Hashem says, I'm so angry that I'm taking an oath that they're not going to enter, that they're not going to enter into my rest. And that's Divrei Rabbi Akiva. I swore in my anger that there's no way that they're going to come to my resting place, to my eternal rest. Rabbi Eliezer says, they come to the world to come. As it is stated, gather my pious together to me, those who have entered into my covenant by offering. Those who left Egypt entered into an eternal covenant with God at Mount Sinai. Okay. But how do I realize the meaning of the phrase, wherefore I took an oath in my anger? It must be understood, in my anger I took an oath, and I reconsidered and dissolved the oath when my anger subsided. What's going on here? Okay, I just wanted to read it in the text, you should see it. Rabbi Akiva says they don't, the Meraglim and the entire generation does not get Olam Haba. Rabbi Eliezer says they do. Why? So Rabbi Akiva says that they don't, for two reasons. First of all, because it says dying and plague by the Meraglim and themselves, and it says consumed and die for the generation. So that's one thing. And also there's a pasuk in Tehillim that says Hashem swore in his anger that they're not going to see his menucha because of what they did. So that's on one side. That's Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Eliezer says, 1 second. By Matan Torah, which is before everything, before Chet Egel, before Meraglim, the Yidden made a bris with Hashem, a pact, a treaty. You know what a treaty is? When two people are friends and they say there might come later on that we're going to get into an argument, but we're making a treaty now that we're going to love each other no matter what. No matter what one person does to the other, we're still going to be best of friends. We're going to be one. And just like one hand can't hate another hand, my right hand cannot hate my left hand because we are one. We're making a treaty. We're becoming one. And therefore, no matter what happens, no matter what my right hand does, my left hand cannot hate my right hand. And since the Yidden made this treaty with Hashem, became one with Hashem, no matter what the Yidden do, that bond is eternal. That love is eternal. And yes, Hashem got angry. So in his anger, he made the oath. But then when his anger subsided, he went back on it. And he said, no, I made that bris with the Jewish people, and therefore they're going to get Olam Haba no matter what they do. And this is the lesson. Okay, so first of all, I want to read those words from the text. I think it's so powerful. Okay. Okay, so whether it be the Meraglim, the Meraglim are much more severe than their generation because they were the instigators. They were the one who got the people to complain. But both Meraglim and their generation, the fact is that they were engaged in a covenant. What is the nature of a covenant? It's like two people who love each other and therefore forge a covenant between them, that the love will never cease because they have reasons to believe that perhaps the current case of their love will disappear. And therefore they make the covenant to say, even if the reason for us loving each other is no longer relevant, we're going to still love each other. And this implies that even when the Yidden behave in a way that they shouldn't behave, and logically the behavior in the relationship has deteriorated so much that there shouldn't be love anymore. You expect the opposite. When you have a covenant, it ensures that the love remains as powerful between the two as if there had been no loss of love. And the covenant, because they made this covenant and they've connected to each other and they became like a single entity. Highlighted, a single body. And therefore nothing could take away this bond. And what is the lesson? The lesson is that when you see a fellow Jew, regardless of their status, regardless of how far gone they are, of how little faith they have in God, of all the mistakes that they've ever made, of the fact that even if they encourage other people to go away from Hashem, it doesn't matter. We have to look at every single Jew as a Jew who has a portion in the next world, because ultimately, even when in the Mishnah and the Gemara, when there's an argument between if you have two sages that are arguing, Rabbi Akiva says this, Rabbi Eliezer says that, and the Rebbe says that, and even the Gemara says that Rabbi Akiva, it's very puzzling. They should say what he says because it's against his nature because he always speaks about Ahavas Yisrael. But when there's an argument between two sages, we go to the Hasidus, to the Zohar, to the Kabbalah, and that and then you have two against one, and that's how you know what's actually the truth. And the truth is that the Zohar and the Kabbalah all say that yes, every single Jew gets a Chelek Olam Haba. So we override Rabbi Akiva. Why is he saying? What we don't know. But we don't know why Rabbi Akiva takes this position to say that they wouldn't get Olam Haba. But we have the Kabbalah and the Zohar siding with Rabbi Eliezer. And ultimately the truth is, so as I said, if there's a difference of opinion in the Gemara, then we take the Kabbalah to take a side. And that's how we figure out what the real truth is. But we have to see every single Jew. But what we learn from here is every single Jew, if the Meraglim who instigated and caused the jeopardy of 3 million Jews and the whole generation actually did die out in the desert, then if they get Olam Haba, then for sure every single Jew gets a Chelek Olam Haba. And the fact is that one of the proofs is that Moshe Rabbeinu didn't go into the land either. Moshe Rabbeinu stayed with his people. So when Mashiach will come and there will be Tchias HaMesim, they're all going to come back with Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu wants to come with his people. And that's why Moshe Rabbeinu did not enter Eretz Yisrael, to be with his people, because they are going to come back. And every single Jew, we have to look at them, that they are someone that is worthy of getting a portion of the world to come and are worthy of Tchias HaMesim. And that every single Jew is is a planting of Hashem's hand, and Hashem takes tremendous pleasure and pride. The last of the psukim, Ma'aseh Lispar. Yismach Yisrael ba'osav Perush Shakal Mishu Mizera Yisrael Yesh Le'Yismach B'Simcha Dash. Okay, Asher Zasmach Dash B'Simcha. Okay, that's one. And then there's okay, which pasuk? I'm sorry. Call Yisrael. Sorry, Yeshem Chedlan Bash. Sorry, it's the fourth pasuk. Call Yisrael. I'll say that again. Call Yisrael Yeshem Chelek Haba. Every Jew has a portion of Haba. Shenemar, as it says, Va'amech Kulam Tzadikim. Your nation are all righteous. La'olam Yirshu Aretz. They will inherit the land. Neitzer Mata'ai. We are the planting of Hashem's hand. Maise Yadai. We are the work of Hashem's hand. We are the planting and the work of Hashem's hand. Lispaer, Hashem takes pride, tremendous pride in every single Jew. And therefore, we need to engage with absolute focus to have a positive impact and influence every single Jew, to show them who they really are. They should live with a consciousness of who they really are. And through doing this, through every single Jew, showing the Jews that are less fortunate spiritually who they really are, this will show the nations of the world. This will show the nations of the world who we are, and it will cause them to respect us. And we have to reveal that Hashem never removes His love from us until we will merit the coming of Mashiach. And even before the coming of Mashiach, the nations will respect us and serve us even before the coming of Mashiach, when they see how the Jewish people are so connected to Hashem, and that Hashem's love is always, always present.
So how does it answer why you're so concerned about this before Hashem? We answer that by.
Okay, Moshe Rabbeinu at this point said, Hashem, maybe you're right. Maybe you have to do vayishchatein. Maybe you have to elevate them and purify them because they sinned so many times with this core issue of faith in God, despite all the miracles that you did. So Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't play that card anymore. He did it with the golden calf. He was ready to give up everything. He said, take me out of your book. I don't want to have anything to do with this. Don't tell me you're going to start a new nation with me. So he did that already, but after time and again, the Yidden again and again doubting Hashem says, maybe this is a circumstance, maybe this is a situation where you have to vayishchatein, you have to do it in a different way. You have to elevate them and purify them, because on their own they're not getting it. So, but at least there shouldn't be a chil Hashem, because if you do this vayishchatein, if you kill them all out at once, then you're going to make that, the problem is that lack of faith. You're going to make the whole world have a lack of faith. So therefore he plays the card of Chil Hashem, and ultimately Hashem does accept it. And Hashem says, and I won't kill them all at once. And Hashem did not wipe out the nation. All the children, it's not that, there's something wrong with, it's not that there's something wrong with this nation. Let's get rid of it. There's no redeeming factor to this nation. No, this nation is we are still Hashem's children. And we are Hashem's treasured nation. And the children did go in. The children did go in and did learn. They did learn from the mistakes of their parents, and they did ultimately trust in Hashem, and they did go in at the end. They trusted, and they went and they conquered. But ultimately the lesson is that no matter that we have to have Avas Yisrael to every single Jew, and realize that no Jew is too far gone. Whether it's Hashem's business, it's Hashem's business if He takes a soul and purifies it in His way earlier in a person's life, because just to help the person help himself, that's Hashem's cheshbon. But we have to see every single Jew as worthy of Olam Haba and worthy of Tchias HaMesim, and that why? Because we have this eternal bond with God, and that bond happened That by Matan Torah, Hashem, we brought the karbanos and we made that bond, and the blood was sprinkled on the Jewish people, and we made that bond with Hashem. No matter what we do, we are one with Hashem. And therefore, no matter what, we could never be separated from Hashem. And no Jew could be separated from Hashem ever. What our job is to reveal the Pintel Yid in every single Jew and say, listen, you are Hashem's child. Hashem loves you. You made this bris. Your neshama was there, Matan Torah. You made this bris with God. The two-way street. And Hashem, no matter, although we're in Golos and although we can't make sense of so much, that we have to know that Hashem loves us and that we love Hashem. And sometimes we do, and sometimes we go out of our way for Hashem, and we don't see how Hashem is reciprocating that. But if it's a bond, if it's a two-way street, then just like we want Hashem to express, to show His love to us, we could also go out of our way and say, Hashem, this makes no sense. But because it's in a bond that we are one with you, I'm not going to take October 7th and say, use it as an excuse. Okay, so now, for a person to say, okay, oh, Hashem, you did that because of the Holocaust or because of October 7th. Okay, I'm going to take off my yarmulke. I'm done with Judaism. We're not going to do that because it's a pact. It's a two-way pact. So Hashem, even though I don't understand, there's this pact, and you love me and I love you, and we're one. And the Holocaust hurt Hashem, just like it hurt us, because we're one. There's no such thing as separating a Jew from Hashem. So the pain and the everything, it's not just that the Jews experienced it and Hashem was sitting on His throne. No, Hashem is with us. Hashem was with us in the camps, in the Holocaust, in October 7th. Hashem was there. Hashem wasn't somewhere else. Hashem was Hashem is always with all of us. We can't separate a Jew from Hashem.
It's a very good sphere. The thing is, you put some people on the sphere to talk about the event, this type of authentic excellence. This concept, it's very good when he goes on to say how we went to the sites, and he first says, they say, let's say, you want to say, these people weren't from Shabbos, right? And then everybody gets pointing fingers. Everybody gets, why do you all get so upset with the pointing fingers of this? We all stare up, having to point fingers, right? At the end of the day, we have to also learn, there's a lesson. Now, not, of course, back to what she circled back, that we notice as a nation, we all get when someone has pointing fingers and everybody gets at the end of the day, they weren't from Shabbos. Now, is there Hashem giving a message? Could be, but we are all, it's not about them and him, it's about all of us.
Guess what?
But he says that we as a nation need to be one and bring everybody back. And that's a circle back that they're all of us, and we all have this message, and we have to be one. It's not about them and us, and they were there.
We're responsible for them.
We have to bring them back and find that.
It's our fault. How did we let this situation happen?
We are one, and we're obligated to bring everybody back, and we are not. But he started this is a message to all. We're all. So we all get we're crazy. Don't point fingers. What's that?
We're all one.
We're
all one.
We are all in this together.
I often wonder how we fall like that, and I think it's because we tolerate. We start off by tolerating things that we shouldn't, and I'm speaking for Russian, for example. How do we all, it's almost like accepted today to speak Russian, and it's not as bad as Rosh Shabbos, but it is. And I feel like a lot, that's why we're responsible, because we allow this atmosphere. It's like in San Francisco, look, crime is okay today, it's when you allow it to slide. That's why we are all so responsible.
And also
we'll have a party.
And also, the golden, they say when the kid goes to kindergarten, there's no secrets. Whatever's happening in the house, the kindergarten teacher knows. But I'm saying you always, one thing, it's common sense. You don't speak bad about your family to anybody, Every Jew is our family. Yeah, we're not perfect. But how can I speak Lashon Hara about another Jew? I wouldn't speak Lashon, I wouldn't say something bad about my own brother, my own sister, my child. We don't do that. We don't do that. This is when we if we would only see the Jewish people, we are all one, and that and the Jewish people and Hashem are one.
Get that right. She was saying like this Rabbi Ari in English was a Rav. He also said that he went to Israel for a mission trip. He said, yeah, I went because first time I went and said I went to see. He said it was a whole different experience to really go and see and go down. Speaking to Hasid, he said it was a different game changer in his life. He's a Rav, and he said I think I just saw, but when I went, but he said to actually go and experience it, a different level of really feeling what we went through. Like get to really, But he said there was one hostage, and he had a meeting with one of them, and she came out and she said the universe was to me.
Are you talking
Referring
about
back,
Noah?
and she wasn't judging, but said, but look
That
how
was not
gone
true,
we are. We have to
right.
bring that back with Abba and bring that. That's how lost we're gone. We are gone. We need to turn in
Noah
and
is
bring
not
them
Jew.
back.
Her mother is not a Jew.
No, she got someone else.
Oh,
That he met a few people there. He went, but you're saying how never that we have to understand compassion. They're so lost, and we have obligation. All of us, we are gone. We need to bring it right back and reach everybody. It's what happened to us, like as a nation. Like we need to bring everybody back. It's our job.
Yeah, and like we learned last time, like we learned last Sicha, that those that fight against the Jews are fighting against Hashem. And if someone's it's a war, it's a war of good and evil. They're fighting against Hashem, and therefore we have to come and we're but when the soldiers are fighting, they're fighting to defend the Jewish people, and they're fighting to defend Hashem's honor. It's one and the same. When we're able to see ourselves and Hashem as truly one, it answers a lot of questions. It answers a lot of questions, because if we're one with Hashem, Hashem wouldn't do something to hurt himself. We're one with Hashem. We're one with Hashem. Hashem wants whatever happens, it's for our good, for our benefit. Do we understand? Do we appreciate it? Is it still painful? It's still painful. But it's not Hashem is out to get us. But Hashem somehow it's for our benefit. Somehow it's to purify ourselves. Somehow it's for us to become better people. And ultimately, the goal is that we should not just that we are one with Hashem, but that we shall feel one with Hashem. Okay.
and yet we still have to God when we see somebody else.
Absolutely.
We can't justify it in our heads and say, oh, they're being elevated.
No.
If that's Hashem to please.
Absolutely.
How do I deal with it when I see somebody else suffering? I used to not be able to take it. My blood pressure was so low. I just got in, Hashem, please let them feel your embrace. I know you're embracing them now. Please help them.
Wow.
That's how I calm myself. I know that Hashem is always embracing us, especially when we're going through a rough time. He's really holding us and he's hugging us. And I thought that everyone should feel that when they're going through a rough time. Feel that Hashem is right here with you doing this.
Like a birth. Like a birth. It's very painful. But you feel when at a birth, when the child is born, you feel Hashem. You're partnering with Hashem, you feel Hashem. So yes, it's painful. And again, we're not taking away the pain, but with childbirth, it's painful, but it's not suffering, because it's the only pain that you understand the purpose of it. I mean, we should have babies without pain, that's what we're saying. We're saying that just like you feel Hashem in the labor room, Hashem is with you. Hashem is. You can't do this by yourself. That Hashem is with you.
I'm still struggling with the fact though that Hashem got really angry at the Jews for a lot of faith, and it's like
We got angry and also by faith that everyone's going to Christ.
Yeah.
I
Okay,
hear
so
this. I feel like we're so that yes, we're all have to unite and we have a bond and we have so many words to go.
She's saying it's not angry.
Hashem, it says clearly here.
It's,
It says here.
But it's angle for elevation. For elevation. Like shaking them for elevation.
You know,
I'm having a very hard time understanding Navi.
Messed up.
To look at
Yeah,
Navi,
but also I wanna just say one thing.
No.
Every trait,
Every day is swell Yehuda and fighting against that. Well, what I'm really loving that Nachmi on the behavior, it's amazing.
I also.
And it's not- and I'm like, my friend, like, we can learn this in school, but
Which one?
they skipped over many stuff.
Navi.
And they're definitely things, I have a friend who's a genius, who went to be- they definitely skipped over a lot and we're in high school, makes sense. I have to understand. No, guys, I'm learning now, we're learning now, it's amazing. And it's that's about being clearly and they're serving the type of, I already did also, about the one that was the tree, this. And the thing, yeah, the thing I could say, there were things that you don't even know. I'm like, no, but we have to learn it. You learn it, you understand, but how does Hashem, how, well, to me, like, how could they, and Hashem giving a buah, talking to them straight, and they're literally taking the right
Hashem has the challenge, but today I feel like it's the opposite. Hashem does not talk to us. Hashem does not give us the door, but he expects even better from us.
I don't expect that from us.
He does. We need to bring Mashiach, right? We're in the generation of we have to change this world.
If the Mashiach would have come down, the first CEO was supposed to be Mashiach. They said the first CEO was supposed, I just learned this, he was supposed to be Mashiach. That's what they said, the CEO was supposed to be Mashiach.
yeah, there were.
There were a lot of people.
We never appreciate it.
And respect him more than.
But think about Amisal, right? He said, I don't want anything because you don't have anything, but you sacrifice for me and nothing for me. I will forgive you and everything will be fine. No, you don't do that. You don't mean it. You don't have meaning.
But if you look at, they were so much, they were a higher level than we were, that's what I much less, they're
We're
much
closer,
higher.
our generation is closer. We don't have, I mean, okay.
It's hard to say that even David, they were killing the father, David's kid wanted to kill him, like.
Yeah.
It's such a hard concept to understand that, like, that they went to kill each other, and then now the woman he had, and, it's very hard
But
concept.
you know what? It's lessons in life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Lessons.
It's
hard, you know.
Exactly, so very hard, it's not judging,
It's
but like,
lessons.
wow.
Stuff.
I just want to say one thing to Bela and to everyone. What I'm saying is, think about the last time you got angry. You don't have to share it, okay? But think about, we get angry at things that are very, very close to home. You see, if my child did something that's whatever, then I could be angry, then I could get angry at my child, and the anger will go away. The anger, and then I'll love them. But the anger is number one, the anger is temporary. Number two, if someone else's child did the same thing, I'm not angry. I don't care. I don't care. Yeah, maybe I feel bad or whatever, but you can't. You can't. Anger. When are you angry? When you really think of the last time you had a conversation that was a heated conversation. You're screaming because it matters to you, because you truly care about it. If it doesn't, then I don't care. I don't care. I don't have opinion. I don't care. But when you're animated and angry and your face is red, why? It's because something that's dear to you. It's something that, so Hashem loves us so much. Hashem loves us so much. He did so much for us, and they were the generation that by Kriyas Yamsuf, the Shivcha, the maid servants was able to say Zakir Gandeu. They were able to see Hashem.
And the biggest.
So yes, they were a white tablecloth. A white tablecloth. One drop of grape juice. It makes a stain. If it was a colorful tablecloth, to us, it doesn't matter. But it's anger. It's anger that Hashem, it's because of the love. If someone very, very close to you hurts you, it's much more hurt than someone else. If someone forgot, if your husband forgot your birthday, it's a lot worse than if you know, yeah, because of the close. Right? It goes, the closer the person is, the more upsetting it is. If you know,
Because we have expectations.
and because the person is so dear to us. So, yeah, how could you? The closer the person is, the more it hurts. The more painful it is when the person goes against you. Okay, thank you for coming on this journey. And you forgive them right away. You forgive them right away.
That's our pass from one who sick to the next.
Yeah.
The Hashem Shelach today. Wow, that was fast.